All right, well, I want to thank everyone for coming out this morning. I know it's the last day of the show. We've got 30 minutes, so we're just going to jump right into this. But as you can tell from, whoa, that was loud, sorry. As you can tell from our shirts here, a couple of us, we are speaking about America's convenience stores this morning, and in particular, if and or how we can get specialty food into America's convenience stores. So my name's Frank Beard. I'm your moderator. I'm the founder and principal of a company called Conveni Strategy. We do B2B marketing and PR in this industry. And I'm joined by three awesome retailers who are going to share their perspectives. We've got Jack Moskalik from Global Partners, Nick Triantafello from Weigel's, and Matt High from Sheetz. So before I turn this over to them, I just want to say a couple of words. Look, convenience stores in America are an $820 billion industry that half of America goes to every day. They occupy the best corners of the best intersections in every community across America. And candidly, this model that emerged out of the 1980s and the 1990s, combining the gas station and the 24-hour convenience store, has continued to be highly relevant and one of the most resistant retail formats in America. In fact, convenience stores are closer to their communities than any other retail channel in America. To the fact that some people call them community stores, like my buddy's 20th anniversary party at his store. But yet, at the same time, the role of specialty food remains largely untapped in this industry. And I guess sometimes you have to ask, doesn't that seem a little strange? Personally, I find it very strange because, on one hand, convenience stores have always been a place to take the edge off, to get a little treat, to feel better in the moment about your day. And at a time when consumer sentiment is at 50-year lows and people are absolutely looking for a way to pick themselves up, maybe specialty food could be part of that solution. At the same time, Americans from all walks of life, all political persuasions are starting to ask very different questions about the food they're eating and wondering, why is our food so bad? Maybe specialty food can be part of the solution there too. But perhaps most interesting to me is the fact that the convenience store industry has been in the midst of years worth of discussions about what the store of the future is going to look like. You know, there's a growing recognition that fuel's not going anywhere anytime soon, but that retailers need to differentiate their stores and not just be seen as commodities, selling the same products from the same major CPG companies as everybody else. And so, yeah, maybe specialty food can be a part of that solution. But this is typically the point, though, where when you bring that up, people say, well, but doesn't selling specialty food mean going up market and changing the convenience store into something else? And I actually disagree with that wholeheartedly. Now, about 5 to 7 years ago, there was a brand called Foxtrot that was getting a lot of attention for doing exactly that. They basically gentrified the convenience store and turned it into something like this. And I should point out, these are all my photos, except for the news article, obviously. But I actually really liked Foxtrot. But at the same time, Foxtrot was not necessarily just selling better food. They were selling a vibe and sort of a niche experience that maybe did not appeal to everybody, particularly because everything was so expensive. And look, convenience stores have to serve everybody. They are the mass market retail format in America. And yeah, not surprisingly, Foxtrot went out of business. Now they are back, and I wish them well because again, I liked Foxtrot a lot, but it wasn't for everybody. And I think as we talk about this issue, maybe there's another way that this can be done. Anyone who's been to Japan knows that, in my opinion, the Japanese have the best convenience stores in the world. Pick one, go there, that's the best convenience store you've ever been to in your life. And I'm dead serious. I actually have Family Mart socks on right now, if you know, you know. But it's companies like Lawson, Family Mart, 7-Eleven, even companies like Plusta, which is operated by JR Central Retailing, and you may have seen at train stations. These stores are packed full of the most amazing, delightful, fantastic products you have ever seen. And the interesting part is the stores themselves aren't kind of the way we do it in America. They're not big and fancy, packed full of consumer tech. They're not going on and on about loyalty programs. They are literally just stores that everybody shops at and have great products, like this one that I stayed across the street from. And so I think maybe that's a bit of inspiration. Maybe that's a place we can start. How do you take the convenience store, not recreate it into something else, but just make it a little bit better? And so with that said, we're going to just jump right into this, and you can feel free to put us on video. But I got a few questions on my phone here, and I'm going to start with my first one, which is, typically when this comes up, what we end up hearing is that the convenience store customer doesn't want better things. And to a certain degree, it's a little offensive, but I also know why people say that. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What do you think? Does the customer want better things, or do they not?
I'll go first. So we have a brand format. It's called All Town Fresh. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but scratch kitchens, elevated assortment. And I will tell you, I'm from supermarket, and I transitioned into convenience, which I love much better, by the way. And our product mix and the reception of the products themselves actually show that the consumer is looking for a premium product. And it's funny, it's not, you can't just say it's Gen Z or Alpha or Gen X. It's our millennial. I'm a millennial, but we're going to ruin the world one day. But it's they are definitely looking for that. That individual that is also looking for that elevated assortment spends about 30% more in our stores, and so we've identified them as the segment that we're trying to target.
Yeah, I mean, as you brought up, the customer's heterogeneous, right? So it's at the end of the day, value doesn't mean cheap. We're serving mission trips, and the mission trip is to fill their stomach, right? So if that is the mission trip they come in, whether they're feeding a family of 5, they need a bite on the road as they're going, but it's solving that mission trip. And so if you can deliver that value that they say, yeah, this is worth spending $9 on, we're still in the business of doing that. And we always have been. We're convenience. We need to be fast and serve the customer with their problem at that time.
In fact, Matt, you were telling me recently about a product at Sheetz that you actually did charge a bit more for, and you did add a lot of quality to. I think you were getting some of the meat actually from my state, Iowa. It's kind of interesting.
Yes. So a little bit about Sheetz. We have a kitchen in the back. We do a lot of pretty innovative things when it comes to food, and absolutely, when you add premier proteins to the menu, that does a lot for your business. That does a lot for the customer to look at that and go, wow, I wouldn't expect that from a convenience store. But to the whole point of the conversation, I think it doesn't do us any good to kind of single out anybody from the marketplace. Everybody shops at convenience stores. No matter what walk of life you come from, you're going to stop in. Everybody's got to fuel up in some way, whether you drive an electric vehicle or whether you have a gas-powered car. You got to stop in. You're going to be there at some point. It's up to us to be able to figure out, okay, how do we capture the dollars? How do we capture the curiosity of the consumer so that we can bring them in and show them what we have? And I think specialty food, it plays a pretty decent role in that.
So an interesting thing, though, that we were talking about is kind of, okay, again, the convenience store is a format that serves everyone. I mean, grocers can be niche. Any retailer can be niche, but convenience stores literally serve the entire general public. So I guess that does bring up an interesting topic, which is how, if you can't be everything to everyone, though, how do you actually prioritize innovation and decide what is worth innovating? Like, when you guys think through that, where do you start?
I think it's great to start with the customer. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where anything starts. As far as how we innovate or what we do is we believe great ideas come from anywhere. So it can be from a food show like here. It can be from an R&D team that they're staying on top of trends in the marketplace. It can come from anywhere. So yeah, I mean, when you innovate, it's a great thing. Right?
Yeah, for us, we live in the data, and it's understanding the data. The mission trips are still the same mission trips, but the customer's preferences change, right? So the more time that we spend in our stores, the more time you spend in the data. It doesn't matter if it's on the food side or pack bev or a candy bar, right? It's innovation is in the data, and you can find it a lot of times going to shows like this, or just speaking with your customers, understanding them, being in your community. Is a huge thing for our industry, and just understanding the customer you're serving, what they're looking for.
I think it helps when you're approaching innovation to actually understand what the strategic plan is for the retailer. We can't be everything to everybody, and in our banners, we actually strive to have clean ingredients and things like that. So from a marketing perspective, we can there's a halo effect of being healthy without us telling the customer what healthy is for them. And then we innovate around that. Like, how do you elevate your sandwich program? You know, we brought in like whole muscle proteins that are completely natural to our spec, et cetera. How do you tell that story to the customer? I think that's where retailers kind of mess up a little bit, or can, is, you know, our sandwiches might be $2 more than the guy down the street, but we don't tell you why. And so we focus a lot on that too, as customer messaging and marketing around those choices.
Yeah, wonderful points. I absolutely agree. I think from the retailer side, nobody knows your product like you know it. So if you're sitting on the supplier side and you have your product, we kind of rely on you to tell us, you know, what customer you're serving, you know, how you're going to help us help us turn the volume that we need to turn in order to make money in our stores. But nobody knows the product like you do. So we have to rely on you guys to educate us on why your product is important and how it helps us to reach that customer and how we can partner together in that.
You know, I'm going to throw out a question. This is just making me think of, though. Obviously, the elephant in the room right now is sort of the economy, the K-shaped economy that we live in, and the fact that, look, I mean, everyone at the show is probably doing pretty well, but there's a lot of people out there right now that are not doing well and are really not doing well, and they're feeling anxious, they're strapped on money. Everyone seems to be like they're trying to think of how can they charge as much for everything as they can, and people feel this, and it hurts. How do you, as a retailer, sell a specialty product to someone who might be a little cash strapped? Is there an opportunity? Or, you know, I think someone had said value doesn't always have to mean price. Mm-hmm. But how do you do that in practice?
I'm a marketer at the end of the day, right? So for me, the marketing message and the story you're telling is always our focus. But then delivering that value, we have the unique ability because there's a lot of competition that we're up against, and they only focus on coffee, or they only focus on being a quick serve restaurant. We have multiple businesses, right? So we do fuel, we do retail, and then we do food. And so there's, for us, it's how do we deliver that value, but we also have amazing partners that we can partner with to bring a combo meal together because we have such big players in our space like Red Bull and Coke and Pepsi. And so typically on my side, what I'm doing as a marketer is I'm working with my brand partners to try to help our customers in our community, because I know in East Tennessee, a large majority of our community is strapped and is hurting. And so how can we make sure that we're still putting food in bellies, we're still filling up their cars, and we're still bringing that value to them? So that's typically the focus for me personally.
Yeah.
We have obviously promotional strategy that shifts, especially right now with the economy. So we focus on value deals like you were talking about. We also leverage our loyalty program a lot to speak directly to customers. We can actually see what average spend is by customer and start talking to them differently. We try to do value drivers like 99-cent beverage, 99-cent coffee. But our promotional strategy definitely is something we are using to speak to customers right now in the economy.
I think the key is elevation, right? So the way that I approach it is I try to elevate the products that I have.
Sure.
So, and it's not always an expensive thing to elevate, right? So knowing that you have consumers that are cash strapped, that maybe they're living on a fixed income, whatever situation they may be in, it doesn't mean that they don't want something that tastes great. It doesn't mean that they want to pay $13 for something that they don't find that value in. But there's opportunities, and I mean, even walking around here the last couple of days, there's a lot of small things. They're not huge, they're small things that can be added to products that are existing that can elevate that experience for the customer. And I think that's really one of the ways that you don't add a lot of cost of goods, so you're not really cutting into your margins, too greatly. But it elevates that customer experience and potentially drives volume and velocity back to the stores, which in turn makes everybody a little bit more successful and makes a little bit more money.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, because I don't think there's anyone out there who wakes up in the morning and doesn't want to eat something good during the day. I mean, I don't know if you've ever met anyone who doesn't want to eat good food, because I sure haven't. So I think you're right that elevating what's already there is kind of the way to go. And this actually brings up kind of a good question, though. how do you convince someone that the convenience store in America is a place that sells an elevated product? Because elephant in the room is, for whatever reason, and candidly, I'm surprised it still is a thing in 2026, but there are people out there, including some of my own friends, who see a fuel canopy and make assumptions about the quality of the food and think that, you know what, there's nothing in there for me. Why would I go in there unless I got to use a restroom? How do you get over that as a retailer, and how do you convince them that, look, the convenience store might actually have significantly better food than the QSR?
I would say pump to store conversion is obviously a metric we all obsess over. But when you're in our stores, as far as driving like the volume of the food program, it's on average, our food sales are about 40% of inside sales.
Oh, wow.
For All Town Fresh. And to us, that's like a sign of success. The stores themselves, the goal is for them to be fuel independent. And to me, that is literally the success of a convenience store, is when you don't have to rely on the fuel side of the business to stay profitable and keep growing. But that's something that we track constantly, is pump to store conversion. We also track percentage of inside sales, and then how that shifts with the fuel side of the business.
And if anyone is up in Boston or the Worcester area, you need to go to an All Town Fresh. I mean, like, this is my favorite C-store. It's amazing. You walk in and, you know, they have a chef ready to cook for you. It's freaking amazing. Like, the first time I went in, you're up in Massachusetts, and they had chilaquiles on the menu, and I'm like, I spent 20 years in Texas. Oh, I will see you, and then please make this for me. And it was fantastic. And the cleanliness of the store is a big factor. The messaging as well, right? So our food team at Weigel's has done a great job with our hand-breaded, never frozen, non-GMO, U.S. fed. Like, we have every single key word you could possibly think. And so on the marketing side, we blast that, right? We have never frozen hand-breaded chicken, double hand-breaded, by the way, in the stores at a gas station. And that messaging, you know, dipping chicken, it's done phenomenal for us. It's become a huge success for us. But
this actually makes me think of something. You know, it's funny because I've been to so many conferences where they're saying, hey, we've got to beat the QSRs because, you know, there's data showing that a not insignificant number of customers are going to a convenience store, but then they're going to a quick service restaurant afterward. But I guess I find it funny because a lot of the solutions that I hear invariably sound like recreating the QSR. And from where I stand, the QSRs are the absolute bare minimum on food quality in all of our communities. Like, if you took the average American, told them to put a list together of what they value in their food for whatever that is, I would come to bet that the average QSR menu violates almost everything that they care about in food. And when I look at the convenience store, look, America doesn't have street food outside of maybe this city, but the convenience store, when it's done well, is kind of street food. Like, I went into a Sheetz last year, wanted a breakfast where I got a flatbread, I put some steak on it, I put some cream cheese, I put a couple other sauces, just customized the hell out of this thing, and it came right out, and it's almost like it came from a street food vendor. Like, that was so satisfying to me. But yeah, I don't know, it's just interesting. So, I mean, what's your opinion, Matt? Like, how do you get over that perception that a fuel canopy is a negative quality signal?
I mean, that's the $1 billion question. I mean, it's something I think we've all, like, no matter where we are within the industry, no matter how well we run our stores, we all struggle with it. I mean, that's why we have a metric for it, right? We are trying to get somewhere different, right? But I'll tell you, I wouldn't, from a strategic positioning standpoint, I wouldn't want to be a QSR. You can come to Sheetz and you can get just about anything you want. If you go to McDonald's, you're going to pretty much get what they're going to give you, right? And there's nothing wrong with McDonald's. I mean, people eat there all the time. I do too. So, but they're very limited in what they can do and how they can serve their customer. Where for us, I mean, you can fill up your car. You can come in. You can grab something great to eat that's hot that you customize yourself. You can grab something that's healthy. You can grab a Red Bull out of the cooler. You can pretty much get whatever you want. You know, and for Sheetz, we even have a specialty coffee section where you can have milkshakes and other fun things like that. So I think for us, that really, I don't want to take up too much time, but I mean, for us, that's a strategic, you know, advantage for us is that we don't have to be the QSR.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to 5 different places to get everything that you can get from us in one stop.
I mean, that's a good point. I remember I was traveling through West Virginia years ago, 12, 13 years ago with a friend of mine, and we stayed at this hotel because the drive was too long, and I saw there was a Sheetz at the end of the road, and I was like, hey, we're gonna go there for breakfast in the morning, and he goes, man, I'm tired of gas stations. I said, no, trust me on this. We went in, and the moment he got to that menu customization, it was like a kid in a candy store. I think you guys upsold him on every menu item. Do you want cheese sticks on that? He's like, yes, I do. It was great. I mean, literally one-shotted him as a fan of Sheetz. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're fortunate. We have. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm up here on. We're all up here, and everybody on this stage are great operators. And it's what we have in America today as far as convenience. You have. It's kind of. You can have some different types of experiences in different places, but for the most part, if you want to have a quality convenience store experience, you can here. And I think specialty food fits right into that because, again, our customers are from everywhere.
Yeah.
We get customers from, you're going to stop. So if there's a specialty food customer, they're stopping with us. Mm-hmm. They're there. At least at some point in time in their day or week, they're with us.
Our industry is culturally relevant, and it has been for a very long time. And you have amazing national players, and then you have fantastic regional players that in those communities, what they mean to that community, like the cultural relevance, it's a huge advantage for us.
I mean, Weigel's has been around for how long?
95 years.
95 years.
And we started as a dairy, and now we serve hand-breaded, never-frozen chicken and pizza that comes out of our commissary, right? So 110,000 square foot commissary. I mean, it's amazing what our industry is capable of doing.
Well, so we got about 8 minutes left. Here's a question I want to ask before we get to our final question. So obviously this industry is changing rapidly. It's an industry that's always thinking like, how do we make a store that disrupts the store of today? In fact, I think Sheetz has a line about that somewhere. But in your opinion, are there any universal truths in the industry? Like any universal truths that just don't change when it comes to convenience retailing in America?
We're in the business of convenience. So for me, like anything that we do is to reduce friction with the customer, reduce friction with operations. So it doesn't matter if it's the most elevated meal we've ever made in the history of Weigel's.
Yeah.
Does it reduce friction? And because we're in the job of convenience. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to go spend 40 minutes at Weigel's. Like, that's not a thing. It's on my way to work. I have 10 minutes during lunch. I need to get something in and out. That, for me, will always hold true.
Yeah.
And so it's just something that we always think about is how do we reduce friction at the store.
I also think previous question is we don't necessarily compete with QSR. We compete with fast casual as far as our menus go. However, we produce at a QSR speed.
Yeah.
Because the perception of buying food in our stores is it'll take forever. And it actually doesn't. It's under 5 minutes. But the perception of speed, and to me that's the universal, is speed. And retention.
I mean, as far as universal truth, I mean, the consumer will always be the consumer, mm-hmm. right? So while they change over time and they won't have different needs today than they did yesterday, or they'll have new needs tomorrow. Like that's one of the cooler things about this industry is that I think we're really probably the first to see these consumer trends and
yes.
All of that kind of happening, awesome. And we're seeing it in real time just about every day. The consumer need state of, to Nick's point, being able to get in, get out, get about their day, I think that is absolutely spot on, Nick. I really do. So that's the consumer. They change, but they don't change. That's amazing.
So that's a good point, especially what you said about how the convenience store industry is the first to new trends a lot of the time. Like I think back to where's the first time I ever saw Dubai chocolate when that blew up? It was in a convenience store. If we go back even further, if anyone remembers fidget spinners, those literally showed up in convenience stores before anywhere else. And I think you're right, the ability of the industry to quickly respond and quickly execute on trends is unmatched, which leads me into my last question, which is, Okay, so if you were going to advise anyone in the audience who says, okay, I represent a specialty food brand, I would love to get in America's convenience stores, what is it that you need to hear from a specialty food brand to make it worth your time as a retailer to consider putting them in your stores?
So at Global, we have one of our pillars is actually local, which we consider specialty. The lady who manages that category is in the audience right now. Her name's Nina. But I would say for a supplier to approach us, we probably think a little bit differently. Nina manages what we call our incubator brands. And so we get excited when we identify a brand new win, but the supplier has to have a story. They got to be telling us about their product, the passion. Nothing is more frustrating when a supplier walks up and says, I want to be in your stores. And you're like, okay, well, what about your product? And they just stare at you like, I just want to see passion. Like, if you believe in your product, we're sure as heck going to try to believe in it as well. But there is nothing more satisfying than graduating an incubator brand to the category team, and it ends on a shelf with the rest of the products. It's really, really rewarding.
That's a cool process.
Yeah.
For us, it's convenience, value, and reducing that friction, right? Everything those three things I'll keep harping on, that is no different than a conversation I would have with any vendor at the show is how do we be convenient for our guests? How do we add value to what we're doing? And please, God, do not add friction at the store. That is the last thing in our roles
Don't
what
add
we need to
friction.
be doing.
Oh gosh, I only have 3 minutes left. Oh, thanks, Nick.
Well, we
I
saved you a whole
appreciate
3
that.
minutes on
It's
this
a whole 3 minutes. Oh man, what do we need to hear? So I'm much more into the nickels and dimes of the situation, but I want to know who your customers are. Like, who are you serving? Like, what's the get? So, if you want in a convenience store chain, do you have mass appeal? Are you able to? Sheetz has 860 stores. There's others out there that are way bigger than us, but from a regional perspective, we do a pretty good job. I need to know, can you, not to sound self-needy here, but how do you help me? How do you help me win? How do you help me make my customers happy? How do I make money? And, how do I preserve my margins that, are very, very important to us as retailers, also important to you as supplier partners. All of that needs to happen. One of the more frustrating things that can occur is when you see a really great product. I share a quick story. We had this really great product. We had samples. The company's kind of a smaller company, but they're in, I'm not going to tell you who the company is, but they're in travel hubs around the United States that many of you will be experiencing probably in the next day or so, maybe today or this afternoon. But they're there. These travel centers allow them to command a retail that's much higher than what I can command in a C-store. So we get these in, we look at them, we're like, man, these are great. Like, we really could do something with this. And then we have a meeting, and we find out what the cost of goods would be. And we're like, well, thanks, but no thanks. We'll be seeing you down the road. But best of luck. Best of luck in those travel centers. So there's nothing more frustrating than that. So we all have to be on the same level. The last thing I would say is understand the C-store that you're presenting to. So my business model at Sheetz is different than the business model at Weigel's. It's different than the business model at Wawa. It's different than the business model at Quick Check. It's different than, just about everywhere. So try to do your research and understand what my business is like, and try to understand what my needs are, so that when you present, I understand what you're presenting to me. So
That's a great point.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. I think generally too, I've just observed with brands that have done well, they always take the time to really learn about the retailer. They go visit their stores, they get a sense of the vibe, the customers shopping there, what kind of customers are shopping there, and I don't know, they show a genuine interest in their business instead of just trying to move a product. It's been my observation.
They're definitely hungrier too. So I can't tell you how many demos that we've had in our stores where these suppliers come in, and it's usually the owner, and they interact with our customers. And I will say, at least our brand standard for All Town Fresh and our new format, which is Honey Farms Market, in my world, we tag the line of expect the unexpected. And in order to do that, you have to constantly be discovering new brands that you think will generate sales with the customers that we have and attract new customers. So it's very important to us.
Well, folks, I appreciate you spending time with us this morning. That's it for our session. We are going to be around after we take our mics off. So if you have any questions, just come find us, and we'd be happy to chat with you some more. Thanks.